Welcome to the podcast. My name is Father Bill W. I am an alcoholic, and actually today is my 48th year in recovery. So happy day! And if you're new to these podcasts, my story is that I am really interested in the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, how it emerged out of the Oxford group, and I have a particular interest in a process that they call two-way prayer, and how that facilitates conscious contact with the God of our understanding so that we can develop a stronger connection with him. So if you haven't done so already, I encourage you to go and check out the website. It's TwoWayPrayer. And if you want a copy of our newsletter and things, get in touch with me. It is twowayprayer@gmail.com. And my guest for this section, what we're doing, just to kind of set the scene, is we've been doing a study of various religious traditions. There's an expression that you'll hear in the program very frequently, that we are spiritual but not religious. Well, what I'm trying to explore is there any benefit to religion, that it still has something to offer us, or is it just the spiritual route that we have to take? So that's where we'll be going. So we've had some guests who have been strong in the Roman Catholic faith. Had a wonderful atheist from Australia. Had a Jewish Orthodox man from Jerusalem last time, and now we're going to explore a little bit of the Hindu religion. And it was Jung talks about synchronicity, how the universe is connected in a way that we don't understand. And I swear to God, this is the truth. I said to myself, well, where the hell am I going to find a Hindu? And that day, I received an email from my friend who is going to share his experience. He was born in the Hindu faith. His name is Vasu. He lives in Dallas, but was born in India, and is not so much of a practicing Hindu as much more of a thoroughly practicing AA. He has 26 years in sobriety and a real dedication to the program that is inspiring. So Vasu, I want to welcome you to the podcast. And I know you're leaving for India. Vasu, well, tell us what you're doing over there in India right now, because you're teaching workshops to people. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm doing online workshops for people who is not so well educated or not very well trained in the AA program. I go through the big book in about a week, in about a week to 2 weeks, and then we ask them to do the steps. We ask them to do it in a without giving any gaps or anything like that, so that they get to come to the 10th step. That is where we get them to do this. So we have people who are equally trained to do that. We share the talking and reading and all those things. We just do it. So right now, we are doing for a group of people with about 70 people. So it's just an honor and privilege to do all these things.
And I understand that you're coming at it differently in terms of really focusing on the steps and taking people through that, where I guess it has emerged that people are doing meetings, and not so much work in the steps. So you're going back to basics.
Yes, I'm going back to the basics. I also give them an introduction of I actually make a presentation of the whole day, how the whole Washingtonians came, how the Oxford group came, how Frank Buckman had a spiritual awakening, the roots of AA. I teach them all this. I just make it more interesting rather than just read the big book. So I give them all the background information on the big book, and that makes me really more and more interesting for me to learn more. And especially when they ask some questions, why this is done this way, why is written this way, I try to find the answers to the best of my knowledge. That not only improves my knowledge and it makes me real more dig deeper into the AA history.
Now, you were raised in India and strongly in the Hindu religion. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I like when I was in the younger days, I've been taught all the religious teaching. I read Sanskrit. I actually was a scholar in Sanskrit when I was at young, and I learned all the uh, Vedas and slogans and all those things. But when I became alcoholic, I lost all of them. I never practiced any of them, but there are still some things sticking in with me.
Isn't that interesting? I think some of the things that we are raised with as children, as youngsters, they affect us profoundly at levels and depths that later events just can't do. So yeah, you were raised with that, and you got sober. How long ago? You're how many years sober now?
That's 26 years.
26 years. Congratulations. And you got sober, I think, in Oman.
I tried to run away from India thinking a geographical cure would fix it, and I went to Oman. But eventually, when I was in Oman, I found AA, and I hung on to the meeting. I never missed a meeting, so I finally got it.
Hmm. Right. Um, there was some difficulty that you had, if you're comfortable going into this, with your wife. Your wife was more into the tradition, and you were more into AA recovery. Is that correct?
Yes, that was correct. We had a lot of difference of opinion, saying that my wife wanted me to abandon this idea of my higher power, and she wanted me to come into the formal religion. And I just found that it's just not difficult to beat both ends, and just we have to part ways because A was more important to me. So that's a conscious decision that I had made.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So again,
Uh, there were some. What are some of the practices though that maybe you were taught in your early days that maybe have had some new life? You were telling me while you don't belong to a particular temple, you're not active in a Hindu temple, you still visit there on your way to an AA meeting
yes.
and gain something from that. Silence.
Uh, I'm not sure how I can explain it. I just get some kind of a peace just by visiting a temple. I don't usually visit all the temple, or I don't visit temple that are crowded or noisy. I like to visit one particular temple that's got peace and serenity is there. That's the temple I visit. I don't spend a lot of time. I just spend maybe 5-10 minutes. I just go offer my prayers to the God, and then I just come out. Uh, but to me, my primary higher power or the understanding is my a spiritual God. Um, in the Hindu religion, we have hundreds of gods. One is the creator, one is the one who's maintaining it, another one is the destroyer, and things like that. So our religion has taught us saying that when you want to achieve something, go to this person or you go to this person. Maybe that's some kind of thing is sticking into me, saying that maybe I'll get the religious principles or religious blessing from the God. Maybe that's why I'm going to the temple. But I can't put the fingers and then say why I'm doing that. I don't know.
But you know you benefit.
I get a benefit. I just get some satisfaction. It's just like going to a good AA meeting and coming out. I get the same satisfaction of visiting a temple. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, that there's a connection at a very deep level that's happening, and I don't know that I'm terribly aware of it.
Yes,
I'm just experiencing it.
I'm just experiencing it.
Yeah, yeah. Many people have a spiritual experience. About 70% of them, when they report it, say it happens in nature.
Yeah.
When there's a sunset or a sunrise, and they are just blown away. And I think it has to do with the shrinking of the ego,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
which AA is all about. If you really read between the lines, Harry Tiebout. I know you study the history.
Yes. Yeah.
Harry Tiebout, first psychiatrist to study AA, he said that's really what is happening here, that the human ego is shrinking down to right size. And that's why AA is successful. That if you're puffed up, it's not going to work. There's something wrong with your spirituality.
Yes.
Now, you got humbled in your life. I recall your story. Uh, I think you're banned on some airlines. You told me because of your drinking experience. Yeah, gonna make some amends there. Were you fairly desperate when you came into the program? What was the
Yes, I was desperate. I was desperate because I have tried every method that what the big book talks about it, meditation, going to the temples, swearing on this temple and things like nothing worked. So I was desperate. When I got this idea from a book that I read in Mumbai airport, Stop Smoking in 3 hours, the last page it mentions that if you want to get sober, you can practice these principles, but better go to AA meeting because that is the one which has been consistently giving results. But somehow that faith stuck on to me. It took 3 years for me to find my first AA meeting, but I never gave up. I think that's why I'm so passionate about this AA program.
This was in Oman, as I recall.
And this was when I was working in Oman, when I was traveling back to India, and I found this book in Bombay airport.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, the 3 years of trying to find the meeting, that was in Oman?
Yeah, that was in Oman and India. Whenever I come to India, I never thought it would exist in Oman. So I tried to find the meeting in India. Every time when I visit, it took me 3 years to find it.
Mm.
So,
But you stayed with it. You stayed with it.
I hung on to this one and I never gave up hope. I said that's going to be my ultimate, way that I'm going to recover from alcoholism. I was really, really desperate.
Right. Is alcoholism a big problem in India?
Yes, it is. Like there are a lot of people they drink, and at a time like when I was studying, there was prohibition, and after prohibition was lifted, there was a time when people never used to close the liquor shops. It was to run 24 hours a day. But recently they have brought in some legislation to close it at like 10 p.m. in the night and open it only in the evening. But I've seen it, people drunk, go to the liquor shop in the morning and drink. That's what has been the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, right in front of my house, I have a liquor shop that's running nonstop. I see people standing on the queue and real desperate to get their liquor. But it's a problem. But it's I don't think we can recover all. We can get the recovery to all the alcoholics. We can only plant the seed to those who are needing it. That's what I am really. That's my kind of a ambition to plant the seed as much as possible.
And you're doing a wonderful job of that. So,
It's all God's grace. I'm just doing it because it just gives me immense satisfaction of trying to do with them.
you said to me that Hindus often have difficulty coming into AA. In this country, let's say. What do you think is the reason for that?
I just think that one thing is they don't want to go and admit I am a practicing Hindu, but I'm religion. I'm in the. It's not accepted in the religion to admit openly I'm an alcoholic. And the second reason is when they come to the meetings, they think that people will make fun of their English. But even though I try to assure them we talk the language of the heart, still they just think that it is too much for them to come and talk in English in those kind of meetings. I think that's one of the biggest barriers where we don't see a lot of Indians or Hindus in the meetings over here.
But your background is particularly helpful in understanding them and explaining AA to them in a way that they can accept it, understand it, some of the nuances and things that
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. Now that I'm kind of have been in the India and the Middle East and in this part of the country, now I'm kind of navigate through and I can tell them this is what we do here, this is how we do these meetings here, and this is why our recovery rate is much better than what we have in India and things like that. So if you, like the big book says, if you practice this, what has been given in the big book, your recovery rate will also be higher. And I'm glad I was able to successfully, plant this message in them.
And your focus is strongly on the spiritual.
Yes, strictly on the spiritual. I don't really get dragged into the religious aspects. I try to stay away from that.
Right, you stay away from that, but you also don't get dragged in so much to the mechanical aspect of just meetings.
Yes,
It's
that's
transformation, it's change that
yeah,
has
it
to
is
happen.
change. Okay. The older thought was more meetings, more sobriety. I think that was kind of a myth. So I'm just trying to um, get them to understand God is the only one who can remove this obsession, just not any of the human power can remove that. So we just have to take that route. And I think I've been fairly successful in passing on that message. Changing the old ideas is the biggest challenge that I have. And that is, I think I have a knack of getting them to change this one because I tell them stories or demonstrate them saying that why we should do this and why we should not do that. I think that presentations or the stories that I tell them makes them convincing that we should forego take this route.
Mm-hmm.
Like what the big book talks about the Columbus incident and things like that. So when I tell them expand on the Columbus, why the world was round and flat and things like that, now that all makes sense to him, and they were able to relate and you know make a new beginning.
Meditation is big in the Hindu faith and tradition. Maybe not so big in AA. How have you done with that over the years?
Uh, in the AA way of meditation, I've been doing the meditation, especially in the morning. I always do the prayer. But now that I've been in the program now, I'm not so much against any of the religions. Now I try to understand, all the things that I have learned in my younger age in the religious, they all make sense to me. And in the Hindu religion, one of the old rituals is we are supposed to do uh, one of the meditation. That's what they call it as Gayatri Mantra. We are supposed to chant that for 108 times. That's one of the way of doing the meditation. And I'm not doing that, but I just understand what it is. Now that since you asked me the question, I'm going to find out what it is. I'm going to find the meaning and I will start doing it.
Well, there was a sign that I saw in AA when I first came in that I did not like, and I still don't like it. And it is think, 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 you know? And I think, I think thinking is a big part of my problem. And meditation, to let go, to chant, to even a mantra such as that. Um, I learned from some of the AA pioneers that they would do something called the Jesus prayer, which was a mantra, which was a short, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, a sinner. It was one variation, but it was a short sentence that kind of connected you to God, and that you just repeated over and over and over again. And all of the faiths seem to have something like that. Beads, and do they have beads in the Hindu
Uh,
tradition? Any?
Not really,
Muslims do.
not in the Hindu.
Yeah, Muslims have prayer beads.
We count it this way: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Mm-hmm.
Then in this, we start with the left hand, we count 1. So when we complete one round of fingers, that comes to 100. So you keep a count rather than using the beats. That's how we do it.
Aha, but it's the same concept.
Same concept. We use the fingers to count 10 in the right hand. On the left hand, you count the tens. So when you do the 108, you know how you have done that.
And in a large part, it is stilling the mind. Stilling the
Yes.
mind. Pardon me. We'll take a break here.
Okay.
I did not think of the dog. So
Okay.
we will have to cut out that section. So we were, yeah, each of the faith traditions has the use of techniques that help you to quiet your mind, so that what? So that you can have a connection
You have a connection with God.
with God, with God. And where do you find God? In the silence.
In the silence, yes.
Yeah. To me, I can relate to you going into, I've visited Hindu temples, Buddhist temples, have not been in a mosque yet, but I do want to. There's something about when I step over the doorway, transit, uh, I'm into a holy space. Now, I
Yes.
get some of that in an AA meeting. When I come into the meeting, I am entering a place where transformation can happen. Doesn't
Yes.
always happen, but it can happen.
Yes. The Hindu religion also says you can achieve uh, the true synchronized, they call it as moksha in so many different ways.
Mhm.
And you can do it by music, because there are a lot of people, they sing on Lord, and they can do that. Or you can go to the temple and chant all these mantras, or you can meditate, go to a temple, or go to Himalayas, pray, and you can meditate. So the Hindu religion also has given so many avenues for doing that. But somewhere along the line, uh, that idea has got distorted, and then say you have to pray this, you have to do this and do this. And that probably, I don't know how it has happened, but I think the Hindu religion has given those kind of freedom to attain that spirituality in one way or the other.
Yes. And yoga in the West, we think of yoga strictly as physical, manipulating the body and things of that. But yoga is much deeper than that.
Yes. In yoga, there are a lot of varieties of yoga. That one of them is doing the physical yoga, and some of them they call it as hatha yoga,
Hatha yoga, yes.
and another is kundalini yoga, and things like that. They are all kind of The Kundalini Yoga, Hatha Yoga is all awakening the spirit.
Mm.
So, but I did go to the Kundalini Yoga once, but I just felt that I know more, or I'm not learning anything new what I have already learned in AA. I think the principles and everything was very much the same,
Mhm.
praying for others and depending on the higher power and things like that. So maybe someday my ideas will change. It's not going to be the same. Maybe I will go back to and learn yoga, like Kundalini yoga, some other time. But right now, I am content with my AA program.
Well, the aim of religion in many instances is union,
Yes,
union with God, union with your fellow men and women, and union with the deepest parts of ourselves, because we are disconnected.
yes,
I mean, to me, that's what spirituality is about. Spirituality is about reconnecting those things, and religions are traditions and ceremonies and rites that facilitate that, that help that to happen. The
yeah.
sad thing is we've lost that in many of our religions. I mean, I go to some churches and it's like, gosh, I wish I hadn't gone there because I didn't get anything, you
Okay.
know? I didn't get any of that joining. And yet, my gosh, I went to some sweat lodges many years ago, Native American sweat lodges,
Oh, okay.
and they were absolutely transformational for me,
Okay.
you know, because they bring you to the point of death. You think you're going to die with the heat, and you're
Yeah.
chanting and you, but you're connect. God, if there is a God, please help me because I'm dying here.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see. Talk to you a little bit about the caste system, if you could, because that's another thing that you were raised as a Brahmin.
Yes.
You're the high
Yeah.
ranking.
Yes. Yeah. I was born in one of the.
I tried to establish that in AA, and they did not like the idea, huh?
Yes. So yeah, I was born in the highest of the hierarchy caste system that we have. We have four different caste system. So I was born in the Brahmin, who is supposed to be doing all the religious things and things like that. But later on, when things have changed, we have enjoyed these privileges for centuries. Going to the schools and getting the good jobs and things like that. But later on, when people from the lower caste system came into power, they wanted to change all that with vengeance. So they said, you people who come from the higher caste system, you are not going to get the privilege into so much into the professional institution. Maybe 5% you are going to get, rest we are going to fill it up with all the other people. And we have to hide our identity. So I have hidden my last name so that people doesn't figure out, so that at least with my common name, at least I can get into the door. So that has also been one of the challenges in hiding our caste system. But although it's not officially, people don't uh, disregard you or discriminate against that religion, but indirectly it is still there.
Uh-huh.
But of course, in AA, we don't see that. Of course, it's not apparent in the AA. Anybody comes in there. People with a lot of religious faith also come there, and a lot of people without religious faith also comes there.
And it,
Or no religion or no formal worshipping, also they come there.
and it makes no difference. I've actually found that people who have had strong religious training have a more difficult time with the AA program than
Yes,
people who arrive with nothing.
yeah, that's true too. I see a lot of people there in the program, people with strong religious where they do all those things. They have a tough time. They don't get the program that well because they don't have the open mind to switch over from the religious God to the spiritual God.
Hmm.
They firmly believe, I'm going to the temple, I'm doing the worships, why should I switch my God? So they don't accept the new God of their understanding.
Yes, in my early days, I worked in a treatment center in Detroit, and there was another treatment center about 50 miles away where Catholic priests would go for treatment of alcoholism. And part of their treatment process was to come down and spend 2 weeks on Skid Row in the treatment center that I was working at, you know? And
Yeah.
my gosh, you could see the ones who it's like Holy Father has to come down here with these peasants or such, and you just knew they were not going to get it. And yet at the same time, I would see people like yourself who perhaps were raised in an atmosphere of exclusiveness and found tremendous freedom in connecting with people. Um,
Yes.
and there were no barriers, racial, religious, economic. It was we meet as alcoholics. And those priests who got it really got it,
Okay.
you know?
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the faith can be a help, or it can be a hindrance.
Yes, I think the way I see it is, I had a lot of faith in the Hindu religion or Hindu God, but when I became an alcoholic, I totally abandoned the idea of God.
Yeah.
When I came into the program, I was able to pick up and come up from the roots. So once I have the understanding that God is essential for my recovery, I did not protest or resist to that idea that I should bring God into my life. I think now I'm beginning to understand or accept organized religion is perfectly okay.
You know, one of the things that I benefited from in studying the history was an expression I used about the God of our understanding. There was an Oxford group expression: turn as much of yourself as you understand over to as much of God as you understand. And it wasn't so much that you're supposed to come up with an understanding of God. Anyone who thinks they have come up with a real solid, that they understand God, is delusional. You
Yeah.
know, it's a mystery that you enter into. And I think the mystery is at both sides. And this is one of the beautiful things I've been reading a bit about the Hindu faith. It is tremendously insightful about the role of ego and uh, how that affects us and has to be overcome if we're going to find recovery in the AA sense, but if we're going to find God in the other sense, in the religious sense. I mean, it's a very psychologically based religious set of beliefs,
Yeah.
and I think Jung even used the term self with a capital S, in a very similar way that the Hindus did or do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you participate in it.
Yes.
You participate, but you're not the center.
Yes.
Yeah. And that has to do with reincarnation as well.
Yeah, they say that if you do all the good things in your life, the ultimate aim is you don't want a reincarnation. If you do all the right things, then you just go to heaven and never come back to the earth as another reincarnation.
Right.
That's the kind of the Hindu faith.
Uh-huh.
But if you do something wrong or something that's you're not supposed to do, then maybe you will come back to earth with like a punishment.
Until you get it right.
Till you get it right.
It's something about the 10th step, eh?
Yes.
When we were wrong, we promptly admitted
We
it
admitted it, yes.
for several hundred years.
Yes.
But we learned, yeah, there's some wisdom. There's some wisdom to that. You're going to be doing a workshop on this trip that you're taking in January to India?
No, no, not this time. So this is going to be a very short trip. So I'm not going to be doing any.
Uh-huh.
I'll be actually finishing the workshop, what I'm doing right now before I go.
Okay. And if there are people who want to participate in these workshops, can they do so?
Yeah,
All right. Would you're open to that?
yeah,
So if they contact me and I would pass on their names to you, you could get in touch with them and,
sure.
and let them know when it's happening.
Yes.
So most of these are people from Indian back. Some of them are in India. Some of them are in the United States.
Uh, no, most of them are in India because I have to pick a time. Like I do it like morning 9:30, which will be like 9 o'clock for them in the night, so that
We're in India.
I will have the maximum attendance. That's how I'm planning it. But there are people who have gone through this program. They do attend those meetings. They organize the meeting. I just go there and read the big book and tell all the background information. I don't organize it, but somebody else is organizing it for me.
Right. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And we're hoping that two-way prayer may become part of the teaching process. It kind of got lost in over the years when AA came out of the Oxford group. It was that form of prayer that they were doing that I didn't learn about till I was 20 years sober.
Yes. So when I heard about the two-way prayer, I really got interested, and hopefully, I think I've gone through your podcast and things like that. I have read through. I think I have a basic understanding, but hopefully, I will really learn when I attend your workshop on January 9th.
Sounds wonderful. Well, listen, Vasu, I want to thank you so very, very much for joining me on this, and I congratulate you on the good, very good work that you're doing with the Indian community to bring 12-step recovery to them in a marvelous, marvelous, and deeply spiritual manner. So, thank you, and continue.
Thank you. It's been an honor and privilege to do this. Thank you, Father.
Very great. And I thank you all for tuning in to the podcast. Hope it was of some help to you. If you want to get in touch with Vasu, please write me a line at TwoWayPrayer@gmail.com, and I will pass it on to him. We are again doing workshops on two-way prayer on the second Saturday of each month, 10 o'clock Central Time for about 2.5 hours. And again, write me and I'll be happy to send you a flyer. So Vasu, once again, thank you and continue your great work. God bless.
Thank you.
Keep coming back. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.